BIPF with our Interest Productions. And if you're watching this video, I'm probably extremely tired after the Chapter 27 review, and I'm so tired that I don't have any stupid reason to be on here today. On the list of videos I could make mentally, I don't have the energy to try anything else, but I'm not lazy enough to make slop, as if I'm ever going to be lazy to do slop. In my defense, last night I had no idea if last night's video was going to get uploaded before 12 a.m., so I had the Louis idea as a last minute idea that came out just before 12 o'clock hit. So technically, I don't have to make a video today since the chapter review came up after 12 a.m., right? But I made a promise, and that wouldn't be fair. Also, I had this on the docket for a while, and with my brain being a mess, why not just get this one out of the way and make the editing and recording process easy, since this one won't require me to delete like 20 things off my phone for the sake of editing, space, and functionality, as long as I finish the script, get it uploaded, go work out, and then get some sleep. I think I can set myself up for tomorrow to do better mentally. Also, the burn video was doing better than the Beyblade Constellation video. Guys, I thought we said Meta was the popular anime here. How was Meta losing to X and burst in views? So, why are we talking about the Kiyamas and why they deserved better? Well, I've talked about this before and I will expand upon it, but between most of the media I cover, some of them don't do the best job of balancing their main cast. And when it comes to Beyblade, while you can argue Bakusen and X are flawed in this regard to some extent, at the very least, the main characters in each season, save for Hillary to an extent, get something to do. And without Kenny, we wouldn't even have the protagonist Blades in the first place. Metal and Burst, on the other hand, is where things get rocky. So, what's my issue with the Kiyamas? Do I hate them? Not really. Each of them basically serve as that loyal best friend to the protagonist of their respective season with good advice, occasionally acts as the same person, shows off some good potential, is established as a decent blader, and sticks around in the main cast even as some people get dropped outside of season 4, but we'll get to that. The problem is that as bladers, they are almost never given consistent character development or chances to shine, and then develop over the course of the series to the point that it took the All-Star season to actually take them seriously. And even when it feels like they will, they get undermined at every opportunity. We'll talk about Rantaro first, Ranjiro, Season 4, Season 5, the Quad seasons, and my final thoughts. If you made it this far into the video, type the Kiyamas deserve better, and let's just get started. First up is Rantaro, and let's talk about his Beyblade, Ragnarok. See, the Ragnarok line tends to get introduced earlier on in the toy line because it's a standard stamina type. It's usually treated as the basic fundamental style. You stay in the middle with pure stamina with some defense thanks to his heavy disc, using Ragnarok Zone as a special move to preserve his stamina via his tip, increasing the centrifugal force with its wall of energy, but has low attack power and limited mobility as a drawback. In universe, the problem is Rantaro doesn't get the chance to try something new with his strategy because he'll have minimal success. For example, when he tries to fight Wakia during the training camp arc in episode 27, he does his own take on Flash Shoot to kick Wakia out of the center, and they pointed out normally while using an angle launch could work, Wakia could have just used Shield Crash normally to end it, but because they were in the Viking Stadium, Rantaro's strategy could work, and out of the non-training episodes he has with Vault, it is a valid strategy. But you know what's crazy? Out of the other 18 bladers in the cast with their own unique Beyblades, the only one he's ever been allowed to fight with a result at the end are Vault, Shaka, Ukyo, Wakia, and Ken. Those 5. That's it. Vault he only beat in semi-serious or training matches, and even in a serious bout, Valkyrie flew itself out of the stadium, so he didn't even get the right to earn a point. Shaka was a no contest. He was never allowed to challenge Ukyo to a rematch. The Wakia fight was at least entertaining. And while his fight with Ken was good to establish Ken's growth, Rantaro almost never gets a fight to show off how far he's come when everyone else has. Ken had left the team and improved on his own, well, with help from Ben. Dinah overcame his doubts and beat Ukyo in the team tournament, did really well against Gao, and Wakia got to the individual tournaments. Do you know who Rantaro's final opponent in Season 1 is? Kyo Sandai, who is basically Rideout's underdog blader but doesn't have his own blade. And it gets better and worse in Season 2. Better in the sense he's able to get more wins, he's able to beat Wakia and Cisco, he gets the knuckle grip that works as a double-edged sword, like he's able to beat one of Gasm's teammates, but when they go to the Snake Pit, he's the only one to lose against the Eye Blader, then doesn't battle in the tournament at all anymore, until he fights Richard Yellow in a rematch in the team tournament, and to his credit, he's able to win, and considering Cisco lost to Free, Kuzo lost to Joshua, and Cisco had to ask Rickson to take his place, and Sasha doesn't battle because women. It's impressive. But Rantaro's last hurrah is beating a copy of himself. Then he's easily beaten to hype up Kurt, win a practice round with Vault, and that's it. He doesn't even get to compete in the God Bladers Cup. Kuza does it instead. Like the episode Friendship, the battle for the semifinals, Kuza beating Kurt is the reason Vault is able to fight Kurt again in the tiebreaker, which is great because Kuza spent the tournament as a punching bag but was able to rise up and unleash an amazing special move to carry on the torture Friendship in the final round, which is good. But you know how that could have hit harder? If it was Rantaro who did that for Vaults. There's also the fact that Berserk Ragnarok kind of has the same build as the original Ragnarok. So outside of the stamina shot, the best Rantaro can do now is just a stronger version of Ragnarok Zone, which doesn't really give him that much opportunity for variety unless the anime wanted to take advantage of the parts to try and, play with the physics in order to make him do something stronger. But, we didn't get that. Season 3 with Ranjiro kind of follows a similar category with Rantaro, but it feels like they were building him up to be something more, which is so disappointing given his potential. We know he actually beat Fubuki in the past, ties with Aiga, works with them to fight Louis, and after he loses to Suo, he trains and gets a new special move in Hurricane Counter to fight Aiga, and during the Battleship Cruise, he loses a lot, like with most of the Arc 1 Bladers minus Fubuki, and no, fight through the match to give Kyle the middle finger, so while he did win that one, I wouldn't really necessarily count that, though a win is a win. He gets an awesome chance to use his new special move, Ragnarok Storm, a tornado so wide it reaches half of the stadium. And yes, we know he was going to lose to Sean, but they couldn't have let him get a point with it first, then have Sean beat him in the second round? Yeah, no, instead he just loses the first round immediately, then fights Evil and loses, but at least he helps out with the others in the training to beat Phi. But there was also this weird thing where I felt like he would meet someone with ties to BC Soul, comparing him to Rantaro, and I felt like they were setting him up to join BC Soul or go pro, but props for sticking with Aiga in the Dead Grand arc. Loyal friend to the end. And with Season 4, we never got a Ragnarok line, which is interesting because we got a Fafnir and Pegasus line for the Stamina Blades. And say what you want about Fumiya and Pot, they're underappreciated in my opinion. But they got multiple special moves and opportunities to go up against other battlers with some good back and forth, which is a shame because while they got underused in the second half, at least compared to the first two, there was something. And Ranzo, I'm not sure if he's the worst treated out of the three, but this confounded my issues because he has a good start with him becoming a Brazilian champion and being their cousin, challenging Bell and getting his blade destroyed, with Bell fixing it. And all the new generation get to join Dynamite Battles tour, but him and Basara get sidelined instead of having more battles with the legends. Arc 3 just has him and Bell beat Ilya and Basara, which Bell did almost all of the work and Ranzo just did one to push Ifrit out of the stadium, and then he's just a punching bag. But they never acknowledge how he's basically seen as the weak link on the team or the weakest out of the 6 Bladers, but ultimately the sane one out of all 6 of them, given that he doesn't have any of their baggage. But he just ends up as Bell's moral supports. They start throwing him a better bone in Season 7, like he wins the Masquerade tournament, kinda, wins the 4-way battle in one of the most hilarious examples of his opponents not paying any attention, aka Ranzo wins by doing absolutely nothing. He gets an offensive take on his special move in Cyclone Grande, even though he loses to Shaka, but it was still a good fight. Is able to basically do Ultimate / Mega, I am not calling it Whip, with Vaults, but ends up as a punching bag later on, but at least he gets his moments in the first half of the series. But we get Season 5, or Sparking or Surge, and thank God it fixed both of these guys. First, we actually get to see Rantaro as an actual coach and mentor for the Azashi brothers, actually giving them good advice training. He even seems to be getting along with the other legendary bladers, and the fact that he's a legendary blader in the top 15 shows how far he's come in the past 4 seasons. And while he loses in the Legend Festival, he's at least able to guide Hikaru's hidden potential, and takes out Vault in a double KO, entrusting Cisco to take on Free. Then in the Legends Super Tag League, and I know people say he only got better because he was partnered with Vault, but no, the writers were just taking him more seriously this season. He beats his mentees the first time, they make Synchro Lightning together, and against Lane and Shu, he and Vault work together, and when Lane tries to use Limit Break the end, Rantaro has his partner take the hit and sacrifice himself for Vault to take advantage of the blind spot to take out Lane. Guys, Rantaro played a part in beating one of the big bads, and that is an incredible feat that I wish you all should be acknowledging. Heck, look at Ranjiro. Yeah, his loss to Lane wasn't a surprise, though I'd argue if he uses Glide Tornado's win and Centrifugal Force to weak in the barrier, and Lane had Lucifer push it to the edge to break it so he couldn't take advantage of his weakness anymore, it wouldn't be a bad idea, but They handled Iga reuniting with him pretty well and trying to avenge his loss by going after Lane in a really beautiful shot scene. When his arm's healed, he's able to use the stadium to get an edge over Cisco in the last second during the tag battles. He and Iga worked flawlessly against Lane and only failed because for some reason no one was allowed to use a special move. Him and Iga are able to beat Vault and his brother, and they at least go out with Drum and Louis having to find a way to counter the joint special move. So, what would I have done? With Rantaro, at least during the team tournament, we don't need Shu battling all the time. Dyna was allowed to have his rematch with Ukyo. Heck, why not have Rantaro fight Ukyo and win? While Dyna actually fights Yugo fair and square and overcomes him. Ranjiro, I just let him get a point off in a few matches, but Sparking kind of fixed this problem with him. Ranzo just explores character aspects a bit more. Let him actually do more whenever he teams up with Vault and Bell. Heck, I know he's not beating a legend, but at least let him put up a good showing against them. Like, at least Ilya got to put up a good fight against Louis before she lost.